anyway, should we talk? Let's go right to the main topic, because this is the only one of the week. Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks, the all-in project, the dare of not even a dare. Dave Meltzer basically stated he didn't know if anybody in today's wrestling business besides the WWE in this country could draw 10,000 fans, and Cody Rhodes said, "Hold my beer." And I've got to, first of all, I've got to as a matter of fact, I congratulate them. Not only that, but they sold out in 30 fucking minutes, apparently. And they've done something that nobody's been able to do in this country in 20-something years. Actually, if you take out Jacques Rougeau in Montreal, because that's Canada, different country last time I checked, and if you take out or put an asterisk by the AAA shows in Los Angeles in the early 90s at Sold Out Sports Arena, nobody's done this since the territories, except for WWF and WCW has sold 10,000 tickets in the country of North America. And Meltzer detailed that here just recently on the new issue or whatever. So that is amazing. And a bunch of people, not a bunch of people, I think 3 people. And I've checked Twitter once or twice a day over the last week. And about 3 people said, "All right, you got to be miserable. Like I'm going to be mad about this for some reason. You said they'd never do it in a million years." And actually, I didn't remember saying that. So I know we talked about the all-in concept when they first said, "Ladies and gentlemen," and what was the date on the show now that we've gone back? Because I asked you to do this. We've gone back and got it. When was it? In December?
December 21st. This is before any big announcements. This is really
well, yeah. They made the announcement, we're going to run an event at some location and try to sell 10,000 tickets. And we talked about it for a couple minutes. And I said to myself when I said, I don't think I said they'd never do it in a million years, because I believe I said they might have a shot and if they could do this and do that. But just so that nobody thinks that I'm making up revisionist history before I go on to congratulate these guys any further, we thought we would go back to that show from December 21st and play the clip of what we said so we can see, because I haven't heard this. As you know, I don't even listen to me. I haven't heard this since we said it. So I want to remember what I said. And then we're going to comment on it and figure out where we were right, where we were wrong, and where we were indifferent. So are you ready to insert this clip into our oral receptacles?
The clip is ready to be inserted orally.
Well, why don't you stick it in?
All right, hold on. Let me just unzip. Here we go.
The 10,000-seat arena. It's very it's very commendable that they want to do that. If they get CM Punk, they've sold their 10,000 seats. If they get Bryan Danielson and it's in the right market, they might come close, because a lot of people will fly, right? If they just try to do it with their cast of comedy fucking stars, I got news for you, boys. I've run arenas. Maybe it didn't seat 10,000, but close, and I put more than 5,000 in on a couple of occasions. And it ain't easy. And you really have to have a great local promotion. You really need local television. And you've got to have the right time and the right place, and et cetera, et cetera. Nobody has drawn 10,000 people besides Vince McMahon in a long fucking time in this country. And like I said, unless you get Punk or Danielson in the right place to come close, or the right building at the right time with the right local promotion, and you better get some fucking radio DJs that really like wrestling and want to be involved. And I'm sure none of you will mind involving non-wrestling people and smartening them up. And then here's the thing. It's like WrestleMania. There's enough people in the world just to see these guys succeed. And that's one thing that is commendable. They want to see their favorite wrestlers succeed. Yeah. They will fly to wherever it is, which is why I suggest it be in the middle of the country. Chicago would probably be the best place I can think of. Chicago, New York, don't do Los Angeles. There's a whole lot of fucking competition there. But either the middle of the country or someplace that's easy to get to, someplace that people can travel to, because it's like the WrestleMania deal. When they had WrestleMania in New Orleans, that's 70,000 people, but they had less of them from New Orleans than we used to 4 times a year when Mid-South Wrestling ran the Superdome. because it's not a mainstream attraction anymore. It's a niche product that a lot of people will fly to and spend money for. So that is the chance that they have to draw 10,000 people in an arena. And then here's one more thing, and I'll leave you with this. Do they just have to draw 10,000 people, or do they have to make a profit?
Right.
Because if you tell me, Jim, we want to put on an event and we want to draw 10,000 people. Here's the checkbook and we don't care what you bring back. Give me 4 months, just sign the building contracts. I'll draw you 10,000 fucking people, but it won't make a profit. And I guarantee you, if they do, whatever size of crowd that they do, without television, without a territory and angles and et cetera, without access to the really top talent that everybody knows, do it once and then do it again. I dare you, I double dog dare you to do it again, because the second time it'll be twice as hard and you get half the fucking law of diminishing returns. That's why it was so remarkable what the territories were able to do in drawing that many people over that long a period of time, that often, because they were in the markets, they knew what the people liked, they had the TVs, they had the promotional vehicle, and the people fucking believed it and wanted to go see what was going to happen. So for all those reasons, let's see what happens. But one of those things, I predict that one of the things that I just predicted will happen if they run this show. And it will be interesting to say, and we'll be able to tell by the location that they run and by the show, the card, whether they need to make a profit or not. And actually, they might just pool their money and say, fuck, we're going to take a bath of about 20 or 30 grand a piece on this, all 5 of us, but we'll make the money back because we'll look like such hot shit afterwards, and nobody has to see our books. Because that's one thing. That's what you ought to ask the stud about that sometime. Here's a good segue. Ask the Tennessee stud about that sometime, because that's what his family was geniuses at. They would go in, open up a territory, hot shot it, and then sell it to somebody. And then they'd go off and open one somewhere else, and the fucking guy who bought it would be like, wait a minute, what the fuck happened? All of my business is hitting the fucking basement, because they hot-shotted it to get it up and made it look good, and then they made their money by selling it.
Well, there we go, Jim.
Well, I was right, wrong, and indifferent. They far exceeded anybody's expectations, because as you can tell from what we were saying, the idea was preposterous on the surface of it, because we didn't see it like obviously Cody saw it. And that's the thing. Cody, a la The Dream, Dusty was always about the big show, the big concept. He thought big. JJ was there to fill in, George South versus the details. And Cody saw something that I totally disregarded. I didn't totally disregard, but I've semi-disregarded the size of the fly-in audience and the people that would be into this. They didn't need any local TV or any local promotion. They've done something completely the opposite of even the big WWF events now. At least they get, a decent portion from their local population, but I would bet you that there's probably what do you think? Depending on who got in to get a ticket, there's probably 15% of this crowd is going to be coming from Chicago. They didn't need any local promotion. So they did something there that never been done. But we did pick the location right, because you've got to have they had a lot of great advantages in Chicago. The easy travel, the airports, people can get there. Pro Wrestling Tees is there. Punk is there. He did the appearance at their press conference. I'm sure it's in a lot of people's mind he may stick his nose in somehow. Chicago's got a great history of wrestling fans anyway, and it's a big population and around a city you want to go to on a holiday weekend. So you got an extra day for travelers. So they are definitely going to make a profit on this. I think that's without question. And they didn't need to hire a big name star. And that's the thing that I think that I overlooked, and that a lot of people overlooked when they say, we're going to run a 10,000 seat building. The whole idea of this is they didn't hire a star. They don't have Hulk Hogan like Jacques Rougeau would bring to Montreal to sell a bunch of tickets because it's a mega star, or Steve Austin or whatever. It's because it's them, and it's because it's the boys. The social media, all these guys are all over it. They have the big followings, as we've seen ourselves whenever You point out things about these people's heroes, whether true or exaggerated. They are the most passionate fans, and they hop all over you because they're younger, so they live on Twitter and the Facebook and the things. I think they've been able to do something that nobody's been able to do specifically because it is the boys. It's not a promotion. It's not a company. It's Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks. They did everything right. They picked the perfect location where everybody's got a tie and an in, and you got advantages. They picked the perfect weekend where everybody's got an extra day to get there and back. The Starcast podcast convention has added to it. And I'm not shitting on to say, okay, now Cornette's going to say because the wrestling legends are going to be there and all this other stuff. No, but that's certainly not hurt it, because now all these people that knew if I did fly to Chicago and if I did go to this show, I got a hotel I can stay in that's going to be full of wrestling shit for 4 days. So that was a sale for some people. Full weekend of activities, the legends and the other fucking people. But it's in conjunction with the show, but not part of the all-in show. So it doesn't really get credit for the ticket sales. They were able to partner with Ring of Honor for infrastructure, I understand, to some extent. So basically, for the first time ever in history, some of the boys rented an established wrestling office. Because there's things they had to, whether it be a Ticketmaster deal or they're already in the system, or whether it be insurance, I don't know what's going on with their business, but the TV outlets, extra talent, merchandise sales, they're set up. The point is, Ring of Honor is an ongoing wrestling company, and you will need some of those services if you're running an event of this size. So they basically rented a wrestling office going with Ring of Honor. And if they're not crazy, they'll be doing the streaming or the iPay-per-view or whatever, because there's obviously more demand for this thing. So they've been able to work with an established promotion, but still, it's still the boys running a show. And that's tell me if you think this, of all those things, that's all the reasons why that they did everything right and people wanted to go to this show. But the reason why it sold out in 30 fucking minutes is just ridiculous is because it was an achievable thing because of the timing and the situation and the personalities involved. Their fans wanting to prove that their heroes and their friends, they think of them as friends, could do it. Disgruntled, disenfranchised fans, the anti-WWE monopoly backlash, just the bad taste in everybody's mouth that everybody thinks nobody but Vince can do this anymore. And the people wanting this to happen. I guarantee you somebody bought, many people, and once again, this is not a knock, because they bought the fucking tickets. But I guarantee you some people bought tickets that they can't even go, but they like whatever the general admission was, $30. I don't know what the fuck it was, but I'll be a part of history and I'll help these guys do that. And fuck Vince McMahon and fuck all those old timers like Jim Cornette and fuck everybody. We're going to do this. So there's probably that element of it that just the fans, it became a cool thing. They're not supporting a promotion. They're supporting the boys. If the show turns out, it's a great show. I'm with all that talent, I'm sure it will be. And for those kind of people who like that kind of thing, it's the kind of thing those people are going to like. But even if it isn't the greatest show ever, the people are going to be happy. They don't care because they're going to want it to be. So it will be. If they didn't know the matches, they were not necessary. They knew that they wanted this to be a thing, and they wanted it to be run by the boys, not a company. And if you did the same show, same talent, same everything, except it was run by an established promotion rather than the people knowing truly that it was the boys behind it, it wouldn't have done nearly what this has done. It was perfect. It was a perfect blending of all the timing, the situation, the personalities. And Cody saw, I guess, from being out there every night that, yeah, people would work with us on this. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think that's the part of it. I do think you do have to acknowledge a large part of it too is probably there is a expectation for a strong secondary market amongst ticket brokers. And there are some people who gobbled up a whole lot of tickets.
Well,
And I'm not saying that, again, like, to your point, the tickets are sold. I'm not taking that away from them, but
then they're smart enough. They created an event that people were convinced a lot of people would want to pay more than face value for the tickets. So, and it's not legal it's not illegal to do that. So that's even smarter than fucking selling tickets to people who want to go see it. I mean, everything was in on this, right? Everything was in. They made a cool show. The Thing is what they did. And they did. I hate to say this because people are going to think I'm going to knock them, but that doesn't mean that they're smarter than everybody else in the history of wrestling. That means that they were smart enough to realize that they were the first people ever to be in this situation. Because I mean, I've been selling Wrestling Gold hand over fist on my website for the last 3 or 4 months, and it's a DVD set that honestly, when it was released 15 plus years ago, didn't sell because the time was not right for it, because people didn't miss old time wrestling yet. And just as my audience, would like to fucking pour gasoline on these people and set them on fucking fire sometimes for the things they do to wrestling. My audience now has to go back in a lot of cases. I know there's some cool younger people out there, but a lot of my audience has to go back and watch the old wrestling. But for people who like that kind of thing, their audience pitched in and made this. It could be the ultimate wrestling crowdfunding event ever. And that's not a knock either, because I like you said, they created a cool concept of a show so that scalpers would buy up a bunch of tickets, because the professional people who do this thing would figure that a bunch of people want to pay more than face value. Some people bought tickets even if they can't fucking go because they wanted to be a part of it and they want to see these guys succeed. And the majority of tickets were probably sold to people who are going to be there by hook or crook and do this whole Labor Day weekend wrestling nerd fest that doesn't have to involve the WWE for once. And in an interest of full disclosure, I've raved about the Charlotte Fan Fest every year. The last few years, Greg hadn't had one, but Conrad Thompson, who's running the Starcast, contacted me before that had even been announced and said he told me the concept. And I'm not trying to say it's like, oh, they asked me first, but he told me about the concept, that he was going to have everybody that does a big podcast there. I guess that's been loosened up a little bit. I see some small podcasts there now, but and he wanted to know if I was interested. And I told him flat out, it's not my thing personally, and it's probably not my thing professionally. I wouldn't want to go and be a part of it so that the detractors would say, oh, now Cornette's just trying to, sap relevancy off of the Young Bucks and Omega and all they've created. And I don't need to pay off, and I don't need to trip to Chicago. And if it was the Charlotte Fan Fest, I'd be there in a heartbeat, because my contemporaries and people I like to visit would be there. And the fans, I'm sure I would meet a bunch of my fans in Chicago. But at the same time, I also told Conrad to be around an entire building full of the people who want to see the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. I'm thinking about driving farther south from Louisville that weekend just so I'm not anywhere around them, because it's not my fucking deal, professionally or personally. But it does help. Could this be the start of an independent WrestleMania weekend where now every year the Bucks try to top their All In, and Cody tries to top the All In from the year before, and they have a whole convention around it. And then the other, because somebody's going to start doing some of this shit. Another group of the boys somewhere, to diminishing returns, is going to, we're going to fill a 5,000 seat building or whatever. But anyway, overall, lots of guys on the card, I'm sure, that work hard and that haven't done stupid, phony shit that I'm aware of. I'm happy for them. Professionally, I'm happy for these guys. They sold the tickets, especially Cody, and that they did that house. And for the guys who work hard and take the business seriously that are on the card, I'm happy for them too. But everybody's been waiting for me to cut some kind of promo on, I'm sorry that I can't be kinder to Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and people of that ilk, with the invisible hand grenades and the blow-up dolls and the stuffed animals and the intergender matches and the dance routines and the invisible men But I think what gets these guys so much heat with me is not only what they've done, but it's also the element that they've created, because the people on Twitter, their audience, or wherever on the internet, say it's wrestling. It's supposed to be silly and fun. It's fake fighting. Why take it so seriously? Because they get a kick out of that shit, and they can't understand why every time that a fan says that, or a wrestler says that, I want to boil them in oil and sell their fat for soap. Because even when I was a fan, long before I got in the business, the fans protected the business. I don't know if you're even old enough, Brian, to remember that, but when I was a kid, even when you knew there was something going on with the business, even when you found that out, but other people knocked it, you would try to defend it and make them believe in it, because you were protecting the business, because you, at an instinctive level somewhere, knew that the more people that are into this, the better wrestling I get. And the fewer people that are into this, the worse wrestling I get, right? So the fans defended. Now the fans are like, oh, it's supposed to be silly. I hate all those fucking people. I want them all to just burst into spontaneous combustion. And a lot of these people think this because if their favorite wrestlers are doing it, it must be okay. So that's my problem and I appreciate their success and I'm happy for them and all that stuff. But there's a lot of other people that don't want to see wrestling these days because it contains shit like that. And you see them on the internet all the time too. And thank you, because I'm one of them. The comedy wrestlers have made people think it's okay to just do phony bullshit for entertainment. And that's why I can't forgive these people like Omega and whoever, whether they draw a house or not. It's hell of an accomplishment. And I can congratulate them without agreeing with or understanding why the fuck it is that they're over. But, you know, Brian, if it suddenly became a thing, right? And I remember when hardcore wrestling, I thought that was a fad, and that was drawing inordinate crowds because it became a thing that fed on itself. But I thought the guys are going to fucking kill themselves. They're all going to be on drugs. They're all going to be crippled. They're all going to be, disabled. And wouldn't you know who won the pony? But it took 15 years to get into and out of the hardcore shit, right? And I thought, okay, at least there was the element of wrestling that was going back to athleticism. And I'm not even talking about too many spots. You can always teach a guy to slow down when he learns psychology and he learns how to work. And generally, when guys learn that and slow down, they start making more money in their careers. But I'm not talking about too many spots or too much flying. I'm talking just the blatantly bullshit stuff. These guys started, I think, or popularized a few years ago and have made it cool. And, people say, well, Cornette, why do you're just bitter because you can't get a job? No, actually, it's the reason why I don't want a job. It's why I have so little interest in being at wrestling events these days, except to see an old friend of mine retire or to raise money for a charity. Because if it suddenly became a thing to do, a popular activity to sodomize your family pet, right? If just people started doing it, it became a thing. And people started talking about it on the internet. And they started making T-shirts and wearing the T-shirts. You see people walking down the street. Oh, you do it too? Oh, it's great. They did a study on it and found that it was good for you. And maybe even the pets even liked it. If it suddenly became a thing to sodomize the family pet, I would still not be butt-fucking Harley Quinn. Because I don't understand it. I don't like it. I don't think it's good in the long run. I don't know why anybody would want to look at it. And I view Kenny Omega wrestling Kenny Omega wrestling the blow-up doll, or the Young Bucks competing with the 6-year-old child, or the stuffed animals that are wrestlers or mascots that are involved in the activity, or whatever the phony shit is. I view it on the same level as butt fucking my family pet. I'm not going to be involved in it, and I don't need the money. So I'm not a motivated seller, as they say.
I've been on mute laughing for the last couple minutes.
Well, maybe if you hadn't have been, my bit would have got over better. It would have made it sound more entertaining instead of me just pissed. No, honestly, that's about what the fuck it's come to, right? But speaking of choosing not to participate in the butt fucking of the family pet, somebody is trying to fucking hitch a ride on the wagon. The Archbishop of Talentberry himself, shit-stain incarnate, he broke his own record, because I'm going to tell you this. I remember when they said in 2000, I don't have the year right. It could have been 2004, 2003, whatever. When they said that he was announced to the WWE staff, the writing staff and the creative team, that Vince Russo was coming back, he got fired 24 hours later because they all said, fuck you, we're not going to be around this fucking guy, right? This didn't take an hour. They announced that he apparently, and help me with this, Brian, because you're on the internet more than I have been last week, but they announced he was going to be part of the StarCast festivities. And within an hour, Cody Rhodes had tweeted, no, fuck you. Basically tweeted, Vince Russo, you're not welcome at our event. We do not reward bad behavior. And he was unbooked from the StarCast. I don't remember this happening to anybody even once, where they got in the wrestling business, where you get hired and fired within a day, and up where you get hired and fired within an hour because people don't want to be around your worthless sack of shit ass.
They put up art with him on it, and then they had to pull it down like within 90 minutes. They actually had art made. They were ready for a big rollout.
But you know what? And here's the thing. Because he's so in need of a job and attention. I don't know which is more important to him. He's so in need of a job and attention that he took that to begin. I know that a large part of the fans that would be in town for that show would probably, not like me, because I've pointed out the various things that have been wrong with their idols and their behavior and such and things and carrying on. So I would expect a hostile reception, and unless I needed the money badly, would not then put myself in that position of going around a bunch of people who'd be grumpy with me. And also conversely, he knocks them all the time, like he even knows what the fuck he's talking about. Actually, when Vince Russo knocks you, it does give you a little credibility as doing something right, but he knocks them all the time. So why would he want to, if he believes he has any credibility, why would he want to associate himself with that, where then people would have to say, oh, well, now look, if Russo knocks him, same thing I thought immediately. Russo knocks him, but he's not above taking a payoff to come up here and be part of the thing. I said, that was my main consideration for not being involved, because I don't want people to think that I'm a fucking hypocrite. But he has no problem with that. But then to not know enough to take the booking and not realize that a bunch of the people on the show that are running the show, because it's the boys running the show, I believe we mentioned that the boys wouldn't want you on it because you're a goddamn, it's dealing with him is like trying to pick up a turd by the clean end. There is absolutely no way to do it where you will please the majority of people involved in the situation, because nobody wants him around. The young wrestling fans, the old wrestling fans, the young wrestlers, the old wrestlers. Pretty much the only thing that people have met in the middle on amongst all those groups is that Vince Russo is a complete fucking idiot. So anyway, but yes, they have done, and I'm interested to see now how do they make it bigger? Are they going to partner with Ring of Honor, who has the infrastructure in place to do a streaming service of some kind? They've almost got to at this point. Or if they keep it just off the air, then and they would need Ring of Honor's approval to do that, because some of those guys are contracted at least for broadcast. But it seems like they'd be leaving a lot of money on the table if they don't do it. That's just me, though. I don't know. But they've done what I think Meltzer put it this way. They've done what me, Paul Heyman, Gabe Sapolsky, Jeff Jarrett, and nobody else has been able to do in the last 20 years. Because ECW's biggest crowd, and obviously I didn't look at Paul E's books. I'd be surprised if the government has seen the real ones. But ECW's top crowd was like 6,000 one time, I think, in Buffalo, wasn't it, for a big pay-per-view?
Something like that. That sounds right.
Like, TNA did 6,000 in England, but if we're sticking with North America, I think, did they not have 3,000 one time on a pay-per-view, heavily papered? Maybe. Ring of Honor's biggest was the WrestleMania weekend show they just did, which was what, 4,000? What was it?
I thought it was 6, but maybe it was 4.
But no, it may have been sick. It may have been. You're right. They were expecting the early expectations were they hoped to do 4, but they did so 6,000. So we're seeing a pattern here. The only 2 I can take credit for: Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Our biggest was just under 5,000. OVW, our biggest was just over 5,000. So since the days of the territories, that's pretty much it. But this is once again the most unique situation, and I think. And somebody said, I think it was Mike Johnson or Dave Shearer, one on PW Insider. Well, now you know the WWE's looking at these guys. I think they're looking at them, sabotage them rather than. And if sabotage means signing them up to big deals, I don't think they want this happening anymore. But at the same point, I think they know that it's impossible also by the nature of this for it to become a regular thing. But it sure has made them look made the WWE look bad. Pretty fucking pissy, actually, that these guys can do this that quick. But I think anybody in the WWE or in any company knows that if they signed these guys, they wouldn't draw like that. Because as I mentioned, it's because the people are supporting the boys, not the company. And I think they know that they can't do this regularly on a long-term basis, but they may have increased interest in them just to keep them from doing it anymore and embarrassing them. But it's so anyway, it's unique in 30 years now. And let's go. You have to go back to the territories, which would be 1988, to get a bigger house than this in the United States, not WCW and WWF, and without the, like I said, the asterisk of the AAA shows.